Okay, doctor.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calwas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about research contribution. What is research contribution? Why it is research contribution, and how it is research contribution. So you will get the best insights, right guidance, and recommendation about all these things as we have an expert with us in today's this session. So stay tuned because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Alwas for arranging such enlightenment sessions, for their support and providing such a wonderful platform. The aim of Calvas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences, recommendations, suggestions, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually as well as to contribute to the world in positive way. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have an amazing person as a guest. He is internationally known and well recognized speaker, having a vast experience and exposure. He's a great human being and always ready to contribute to the world in different positive ways. So let me introduce him formally. He is a PhD in economics from Paris Tech, France, and approved research supervisor. He is currently teaching economics at Sindh Agriculture University. Beside his extensive teaching experience, his research focuses on land use and neighborhood conflicts. This multidisciplinary approach aims to identify and define the conflicts as well as the different ways of managing and solving them. Moreover, he is the author of many prestigious and world prestige journals. He has the articles and few books focusing on regional and territorial development in developing countries. In addition to that, his involvement in research led him to participate at various scientific committee of various prestigious national and international conferences. Last but not the least, he's a wonderful speaker, teacher, author, trainer, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Habib MAGSI. Welcome to Kalwa's platform, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Haider Shah, and call was a platform. So, and I'm thanking to all the participants from across the world and from different nations, different countries, different regions, different locations of the world for joining us and listening us for their passionate time and valuable time. So, thank you very much for having me with you in this evening in this great session. We will discuss about the research contributions. As you said, we will be discussing, we will be learning from each other, and we will be sharing our experiences and knowledge about the field and the session. And I must say good evening to everyone.
Yeah,
So
thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to have you. And we have seen you at different platform, and you are very talented and very knowledgeable person. And today, I'm sure our audience they are going to learn so many new things from you. So before we get started, let me just tell to the audience about the format of this session. Dr. Habib will be presenting, and he would leave time for the question answer session at the end of a presentation. So you can ask question by writing in comment section, or you can email us through info@kalwas.com. So let's get started. Over to you, Dr. Saab.
thank you very much, Dr. So let's start with the research contribution as it's the topic of today and this evening. That what is research contribution and why research contribution is important to be highlighted, and how the research contribution to be highlighted, as well as how the research contribution to be measured. So I am Dr. Habib Maksi. As you already have introduced me, I think it's no need to explain something more, no need to add, because already everything has been explained. So everything has been, for example, introduced by the Professor Dr. Haider, our handsome host to, this evening. So let's start with the slides. To first of all, we would like to know that the start from the basic. That is, we all researchers, as we know that what is basically the research. So little bit to have a review in that topic. So that what is research. So I came up with the experiences. Would like to discuss ourselves and to learn from each other. That I will say that it's a systematic investigation into or and the study of materials sources in order to establish the facts. And obviously our as a researcher our aim to reach up to the new conclusions. So that is what about the research. And in a little bit go ahead further in one step, we may say that it's an inquiry, it's an investigation which entails the collection of data, collection of information, and documentation of critical information, and the analysis and the interpretation of that data in accordance with the suitable methodologies to set the specific professional fields and the academic disciplines to give for the knowledge and the new knowledge. So, apart from this research, for example, their question always being asked by the new entrants, being the layman, that why it's being conducted, and we may summarize this one that it's conducted to evaluate the validity of hypothesis or the interpretive frameworks. And we always conduct the research, would like to assemble a body of knowledge and to find and to share them with the in an appropriate manner, and would like to help. For example, the research will helps to generate the future questions and future inquiries, that what should be investigated, in what manner should be investigated, what kind of information should be gathered, what kind of methodology should be adopted, what kind of the patterns should be followed, what kind of theories should be followed, what kind of literature should be reviewed, etc. So this is all the scenario about the research. So here in this stage, so we may say question rises, so the what type of research, because further we will be discussing about the contribution of research. So I think that it's imperative, it's very useful to give the for example the fragrance of the types of research, about the types of research to our participants, to our audience, to our friends, to discuss this evening, that the types of research as for example the applied research, we may say as an applied researcher. So it's about the solutions and the targeted problems, what on the specific, in which we select always the specific problems and we target the problems to gather the information about that problem and to give the solution measures for that one. So when we are conceptual or theoretical researcher, we always go for the critics about the literature, go to find out the ways from the available literature, that what kind of research has been carried out, what kind of research has been done so far, and what kind of research we have to theoretically, what kind of theories to be validated, what kind of theories have been validated, what kind of theories have been proposed, what kind of the hypothesis has been tested, or thing. And ultimately our aim in this all phenomena, that how new knowledge to be produced and why it is important in a theoretical research. We always in that pattern or then track. So when we are as empirical researchers, we like to find out the evidence is based, either the qualitative or the quantitative or the historical analysis, and we sometimes collect the information through the psychometric scales to be analyzed. And that aim is to find out the evidence, the solutions of the current state, means the prevailed problems, etc. So moving towards the research contribution, so this is, I think, the base that on which we are always making the contributions. Like for example, the research contribution way, first we have to understand that what is research contribution. So when we say research contribution, that is basically the range of activities and the outcomes undertaken and or the achieved by researchers. So in which we see that the researcher, what kind of fellowships has been earned or hunted, or the researcher, what kind of research programs he has attended, what kind of research programs, and the what of the research, for example, the achievements he or she has in the field of in the research arena. So this is, so research contribution is basically the recognizing the research and the research related activities of a person, whether the we see such kind of contribution with such kind of recognition through the metrics and the matrices or the related to their citation counts, for example, that how much the research has been accessed by the persons, has been read by the researchers, by the has been opened, how much, and the research, the new research has opened the door for the other researchers. So for example, that how many best papers he has published, or the how many best paper awards, research paper awards he or she has obtained, and what were the for example, how many awards, prizes in against their poster presentations, against their conference presentation, against their seminars, against their the projects, for example, he has won or achieved. So this, that is basically the research contribution. In addition to that, it's for example, that the researcher, means the contributor, has attracted, for example, in terms of, for example, the projects in the worldwide, globally, in which projects, for example, he has been attracted, he was called to give the public seminars, to give the contribute in the new knowledge. And for example, the research contributor, means the researcher has, for example, how supervised how many students in it's not limited to the student supervision, but it's including the doctoral student supervision, so master's thesis supervision, and the research projects leading, the what kind of leading, what kind of role he or she has in the researcher. So that is, for example, reflected from the research contribution of the person. When we say the research, what is research contribution, why research contribution is important, or how research contribution should be measured, or how research contribution should be explained by researchers. So apparently we may say that these all the answer of all these questions are quite similar, but when we go inside, we feel the little differences on these answers of these questions. So for example, this is the what the research contribution. So, and types of research contribution, as the research types we already discussed earlier. So the research contribution types means, for example, a theoretical contribution, that in which would like to see, or the, for example, the institutions or the recruiting agencies, or the in case of supervision, the supervisor would like to see that what kind of methodologies has been tested, what kind of methodologies were modified, and theories were modified, what kind of theories has been extended, or what are the available theories, and which theories were integrated, and which theories were validated. verified or either or nullified. So that is basically the theoretical contribution of a researcher, that what kind of theories he or she was dealing with. So when we see that type of research contribution in terms of methodological contribution, that in which normally we would like to see that what kind of methodologies were tested, what kind of methodologies were proposed, and what kind of methodologies were triangulated, and in order to reach up to the new conclusions or to contribute a new knowledge, and what kind of methodologies to be developed. Sometimes there is no existence of a particular methodology to calculate, to collect and analyze a particular type of data in which subject or the object has been set, in order to find out the solution measures for that situation, whether sometimes in the social sciences and natural sciences we are setting depending on the objectives or the subjective approaches. So here, method in the methodologies, we like sometime to see that what kind of methodology was validated. Maybe the already there the methodologies are existing, so maybe a researcher has contributed to validate that methodology. So in a contextual or the practical contribution, would like to see that the solution to new issues, what kind of solution has been generated, and what are the maybe preventive measures has been suggested in the policy recommendations, that what kind of policies adopted or adopted. So in both situations, so this is means that a researcher was dealing or the having time in a practical contribution or the contextual contribution in this sense. And when we go for that, why research contribution is important. So in which would like to have tried my best to come up with the certain quiz set of answers, that would like to see the quality evolution of a contributor. So that the contributor is how he has evaluated and the prescribed the research, how he has dealt with the objectives, with the data, with the analysis, with the conclusions. And this is through the research contribution, like to know that how vital a high quality research environment was there when the researcher was performing this his or her activities of the research and the research project. So what kind of, so why it is important, because we'd like to know that what kind of knowledge is has been contributed in the research arena, in the field, in that existing field, or what kind of knowledge has been suggested to be created, that a new field may be created in that one means. So it's basically, to me, it's basically the research contribution. Why it's important, because in which we judge the worth or the value or the level of our researchers. For example, the what, in which field of study he is operating with, he is dealing with, he is working with, or what kind of goals he has achieved, what kind of goals he has, for example, the set, and then and they found their conclusions and they achieved, and what are its accomplishments, what are its contributions, and what are its experiences. On the basis of its experiences, what kind of intentions he has, for example, in the future, kind of in the future, for example, his future, what kind of future projects he has or she has. And obviously, ultimately, we reach up to the interest of the contributor, interest of the researcher, that what is real worth of the researcher is. So that is why the research contribution is being exposed or being highlighted or being asked the with person sometimes, that what are your research contributions. So we may explain such type of the things, whatever we the researcher has contributed in the field of study. So a question, it's a very important question, that how the research contributions to be highlighted, to be measured, to be exposed or to be asked from the researchers. So basically, it's a contribution to research disciplines and environment, that what kind of environment he had, what kind of discipline he is working with, and in a, either it's a new discipline, introducing new discipline, or it's working in already in a discipline, in a working in already in existing team, leading in a team, or the what kind of research, for example, is he was dealing with. So what kind of methodologies or the knowledge has he has contributed. So and even we when we look in detail, that we see that organization, how he has organized, how he has participated in research seminars, research conferences, research projects, or the research related activities basically. So how the research contribution, for example, should be highlighted, in which we see that what kind of collaborations a person has made in terms of the in the different research project, how he has triangulated the different methodologies, how he has, for example, made the trade-offs between the different projects and different regions, that to make to bring the researchers closer, and what kind of networks he or she has made, and how he has or she has facilitated. Basically, it's how the research contribution to be exposed. To me, it's a, we would like to judge these things through the member of collaborations, different consortia, for example, they may, and what kind of researchers, or the how many researchers are he has hosted or she has hosted, in which seminars and which public seminars, public speeches, or the keynote speeches are based upon his contributions he has given or he has participated in. So the presentation of research to the professional groups or the organizations or the industrial bodies, how he has, for example, made it possible to be there, or to support them, to make collaborations, to facilitate, how he has again facilitated his research team as a student, as a supervisor, and etc., as a colleague. So that is basically the how the research contribution to be highlighted to me. So again, that we are coming to the up to the end. For example, how to write a research statement. So that is always a question by the researchers, by the new entrants in the field, that how I should write, and especially I have supervised like PhD and master's students. So always they ask that, how should I write my research statement, or the other students sometimes used to contact you or as a researcher, that how to write. So I, for me, it's whatever the directed by the institutions, that how you are going to write your statement. It depends on the directions given. It depends upon the recruiting agencies, that what are their requirements, how they would like to. Sometimes there are prescribed performance. Sometimes there are giving the questions, that what are your research contributions. But to me, it's there is no prescribed format, and it's not any, there is no any particular format is available to give your research statement, your research contribution. Sometimes you are always, as a researcher, is always free to highlight his based on his expertise, that what kind of research he has contributed, as we discussed previously, that whether the research is a methodological contribution, whether the research is theoretical contribution, whether the research is empirical contribution, whether the research was performed in laboratories, whether the research was performed in the fields, whether the etc. So no matter the what kind of research project he or she has, what are their how many students they have supervised, what were their goals, how they have achieved goal, all of these to be highlighted, depending that what is important as to me as a researcher would like to show that these things I have achieved. So in nutshell, I may say that what are the achievement of a researcher? He or she has to highlight these things in the statements. So I have developed a few examples from the researchers, from the statements that they have developed. For example, to me, so I brought these examples over here that they may support our audience, support our the participants, that how the research statement may be written. And depending, again I would say that depending that what kind of contribution really he or she did in the field, and what kind of new knowledge he or she has contributed with. For example, it's this is an example one. This is a theoretical contribution in which a researcher would have summarized this one. For to me, it's I think this is a good statement. And if I may, I have highlighted the important things the researcher has highlighted, that a researcher has contributed. For example, this researcher has contributed, extended the applicability and predictivity power of institutional theory, agency theory, and signaling theory. Means he has uh, dealt with the many theories, and he has applied the institutional theory, and he has proposed the several policy suggestions. Means his entire work is dealing with the theoretical contribution. Means he has a good contribution in the field. And to me it's a very good kind of example to be highlighted over here, and to be discussed and circulated among my fellows. And always there is as there we our colleagues used to, and our students, our researchers, our fellows, even myself, I asked many times to my supervisors and said that how should I write when I was a student there. So this is we are always in a learning phase. To me, as I think life is a time to get knowledge. So we learn from the such type of discussions. So as go to the another example, that is basically a methodological contribution. This is to me it's a good contribution, that here the researcher said that its methodological skills has been developed or broadened, and then they are introduced with the other sciences. For example, it's a that is the methodological contributions or the researcher do. So the researcher has for example performed with, or the triangulated with the other sciences. So to me it's a good contribution and a good example of methodological contribution. So here, and another example so I found it's a very good example. To me it's contextual and practical example, in which the researcher has summarized his statement as the entire. He has given us that the practically what is happening in an enterprise. It's what is the firm value. For example, enterprise value is an alternative measure of a firm value. So it's a contextual and literature gap on the firm values. And he is in fact for this research is a lady that she is. So she has, for example, contributed in the contextual research, and she has given a practical implications. She has given the policy recommendations, specific in the set of policy recommendation in her, but she has not given the all the policy recommendation over here, but she has summarized and claimed that she has the specific policy recommendation to build the regulatory framework for risk and financial innovation. So that means it's a good contribution when you are when a person is going to, and a researcher is going to summarize his achievements, summarize his uh, knowledge contribution, summarize methodological contribution, summarizes sets of the policies or the new conclusions in the research. Would like to expose all these things in a nutshell, that what he or she did in the field and how she has contributed in this field. To me, these examples, I'm sure that will help the our researchers and the young researchers especially, so that how we may write their research statements as the theme of this whole discussion, I think. So that is all about the research contribution, that how, why, and uh, what is research contribution basically. So I think it's to me it's over. So we may go for the questions and answers if we may have, and that discussion. I think we many things will be clear in the discussion further. So thank you.
So, yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Habib. And really, the way you started was so wonderful. You came up with the definition of research first, that what is research, and then very nicely you mentioned the type of research, and then you came to the contribution, and you have mentioned very rightly that what is the contribution and what are the types of contribution. I like the way you have written on the slides, that to test, to verify, to develop, and to integrate. And then you have very nicely mentioned the methodological, the contextual, the practical, because these are the words in which the students, they get confused most of the time, and particularly the theoretical contribution, because they know what kind of contribution they are going to make. And then I loved the way you mentioned what, why, and how. That was so nice. And now they can clearly understand that what they are doing, why they are doing, and how they are going to do it. And the beauty of the expert is what you have mentioned through examples. Example, and you mention it, how can you write it very well, and what is the real research for that perspective. I would say that your slides were so simple, but at the same time so heavily loaded that you were explaining the things, and the things were coming out of your wonderful knowledge. And I was just thinking that these are the things which I learned through very difficult way, because we had to go through a lot of research papers in University of Malaya, and sometimes a discussion with the seniors, the supervisors, the other co-workers over there. So we learn it in a very difficult way, but you made it very easy for our audience to learn it in a simple way. And I think that's the wonderful thing you have done. So nicely presented, so wonderful. Thank you very much for this superb presentation. Should we start with the first question, please?
Yes, please, Doctor. Thank you very much. I think I have. It's all about that. The time you have given me, and I think it's. I was enthusiastically to contribute in this and to make
Yeah.
as, for example, the simplest and simplest way to present and easily the our audience and our students, young researchers, to understand these things. So thank you very much. And please, we may go for the question answer session, I think. This
Yeah,
one.
thank you very much, and it was pleasure while listening to your experiences and for your wonderful recommendations for them. Okay, first question we have, and that in your own career you might have heard a lot from the different students at different level. They want to ask that, please, doctor, does the level of contribution to the study is different for MBA, MS, MPhil, and PhD level? If yes, please explain a little bit and guide us. Yes, please.
So as I understood the question, that the first question is that does the level of contribution in masters and the PhD is different?
Yes.
So I may say that yes, because when we are, for example, these grades have been set for us, like bachelors, like masters, like PhD. So all these are the grades and these are the levels. Certainly, their level, at that level we are contributing whatever the level of education, whatever the level of contribution, whatever the level of this one. If I am doing MBA, MA, or the masters, and I may say in masters means master level research will is not the same as the PhD level research is. So that means maybe I am, it's a, my first stage, or the students, for example, doing masters, you have that this will be your first step in the research. So obviously it's not that we are not expecting, the world or the research arena is not expecting you that you will change the method, or you will bring a new, for example, you can bring the new conclusions, but it's I think it's difficult at the first step to bring up the new set of methodologies or the new set of theoretical for example, exposures or the theories, etc., and the changes in the theories or the validation of the theories. I think that is the in during, for example, PhD, we have a lot of time, we have at least 3 years time, and in the masters we have little time. So depending on the project and depending on the level of education, so there is the difference in such a way, and depending on the what kind of research we are dealing with.
Yeah, very nicely said. Thank you very much, Dr. Habib, for elaborating so nicely. Dr. Habib, we have another very interesting question, and that one master student has emailed us that please, doctor, explain to me, does it necessary for master student to have theoretical contribution, or it can only be done through the contextual contribution? Yes, please.
So I think that it depends on the level of the student, the master student. If master student has good literature review, good background of the research, so he can go up to the theoretical contribution. But I think for example, in a majority of the first step of research, as I already said, that the master's level is the first step of risk in the research. So I think in the first step we may go for the contextual and the practical approach. That would be better. If I suggest to my students that uh, when you are new in this arena, so go to the practical approaches, and then gradually for the theoretical and the methodological approaches. So that is I think better for the master student to go first with the practical approach. But it depends, sometimes the level up upon the level of a student. Maybe the level a student has developed his level high, and he is very enthusiastically to go for the new knowledge contribution, and I think that is good, and there are the examples of this one. Okay.
Yeah. Very nicely said once again. Thank you very much for such wonderful elaboration. Another question is another very interesting one, and that is that, dear doctor, please share your thoughts. Can we say that problem statement translate into research contribution? That is, by the way, the question by the PhD student. They say that we conduct the research for a problem, so can we say that problem statement translate into the research contribution? Yes, please.
So thank you very much, sir, for the question. I think this is very interested question, and in which I would like to share the first. The I will try to summarize the answer and then share the example. That, for example, if we are going to give to ask the question that what is your research problem, why you are conducting this type of problem, is either subjective or objective. So the research problem is a research problem, and later on it will be contributed, later on it will be turned in the research contribution. Yes, that is basically, but at first that is a research statement, is basically that it's a journey towards the research contribution, I may say. Okay, first you have started with the research interest or the research statement, that what this is the research statement. When accomplished the goals, after either your methodological goals were setted, or the theoretical goals were setted, or the empirical goals were setted, so after achievement of the results, that will be turned into a research contribution. So that is basically we can say, but that is research statement is the initial phase of research contribution. It's a journey towards the research contribution, I may say.
Yeah, very nicely said. and I'm enjoying the way you are giving the answer. It's so nice, and the people are enjoying it, and they are commenting as well. There is one very simple question, but still very challenging for one master student. He has asked for a simple question that, please, sir, guide me. Is there any difference between research significance and research contribution, or is it the same? Yes, please.
Okay, so it's a wonderful question. As you said, Professor Dr. Haider Shah said that this is a wonderful question and it's a challenging question as well. And this is, I may say that the research significance is basically the research contribution to. Because when we say my research significance or this that I have developed the methodology, for example, triangulated the methodology and the for example, would like to go for towards the set of the validation of the methodology, validation of the theory, or I have come up with the solution measures to the, for example, if I am expert of land use conflicts, I have given this set of the solution measures and the preventive measures to the world. That is a practical and contextual approach. So obviously these are the research significances of this one. So in this sense, we may say the research significances are further highlighted into research contributions. Yes.
Very nicely said once again. We have another very interesting question, and this gentleman has given two questions on comment section. That first is, I have developed a model in which I have applied certain algorithms to achieve my objectives. My contribution is that algorithms has not been not applied before in that area, so can that be referred as the contribution? And second question that gentleman has asked is, using algorithm to improve accuracy or overall performance of objective is considered contribution? Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. This is, I think, the gentleman has asked two questions, and both are very much important. And first question is, he has used the algorithm, and that was not used before in that area or in the subject area or the area, whatever I understood. So I think yes, this is your good contribution, that you can say that this algorithm was not applied in that area, in that particular field of study, in that particular project, in that particular area. Yes, this is your great contribution and you should highlight it. And the second one, as you said, that this using the algorithm, for example, is the accuracy of algorithm you have, you went for, that is your contribution. Obviously when you are writing your research statement, that is to me, these are the both important areas to be highlighted in your research statement, that you have used this algorithm as was not used before, and you are the person, you are the researcher who has used algorithm it's first. So now the other researchers or the following researchers will follow you. That is your contribution, and that will remain your contribution forever. And you have measured the accuracy of that algorithm. Obviously that is your great contribution, and that because you have measured the accuracy. Maybe you have measured the accuracy of the other algorithms, maybe other models, so you can give their comparison too, and you can say that this algorithm is good, or the through which I set my goals and I have achieved my goals, and these are my achievements. And yes, these are very good achievements and the research contribution from your side, and that should be highlighted in your research statements, I will suggest.
Yeah, very nicely said. And I believe that you are making for them very easy. And these are the certain doubts in the audience, particularly the young researcher, the students who are doing masters, and even in PhD, there are some speculation and these kind of doubts which needs to be clear in order to contribute in a better way. One last question, Dr. Habib, and that is
Yes.
again a nice one. The question is, since you are foreign qualified, they want your opinion on that, because what you say impact a lot. So they want to know that whether there are any restriction in terms of limitation of a page number for writing the research contribution, or is there any one page or two page at international level and or national level. So what is your experience on that? Does does the word numbers count, or is it only the quality? And if the quality, one page, two page are enough, or what is your recommendation for that? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. This is again interesting, very interesting question. And in the second last slide, I think in third last slide, I have mentioned that there is no particular format for the research contribution. It's in the worldwide. Okay, so it depends that which organization is asking you, which institute is asking you about your research contribution, whether you are applying for any scholarship, whether you are applying for any fellowship, whether you are applying for any award, prize, etc., and whether you are applying for any project, that there are the set of questions sometimes defined by those organizations, that what is your contribution in terms of project, what is your contribution in terms of student supervised, what is your contribution in terms of independent projects. Sometimes independent projects like masters and thesis we always do under the supervision of some professors, and the other projects like postdoc or the other projects we hand, that we do independently. So depending that what kind of project or the what kind of research you dealt and what kind of institute is asking about the research, there is no any limitation of the page sizes, no any limitation of word size, and no any proper format, that whether sometimes we give in a bullet form, sometimes we give in a statement form, or the whatever the particular question asked by the organization. So that is, there is no prescribed format for the research statement. You are as a researcher completely free to expose to your research contributions, to highlight your contributions, and to avail to win the projects and the scholarships and the awards. And that is, I may say, the good luck for the students. So
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Habib. And I really enjoyed the session with you, because the way you are giving the answer is so nice. And that speaks for your knowledge and exposure, experiences you have gone through, because you have gone through a very tough schedule. We know it's not easy to do a PhD. And definitely from your slides, I could see that so many things you have mentioned and you have covered in that. Even though the slides were looking simple, but it contained a heavy amount of content, which was so wonderful and so powerful. Thank you very much. People like you are our assets, and we really appreciate and your efforts towards the field and to the world. It is so nice, so great to have you. Please keep it up. The world needs people like you, who are the real contributor. And uh, I would say that please tell us about your message to the world as a teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator. Yes, please.
thank you very much. So I think as a researcher, as a teacher, it's our duty to serve for the young researchers which are coming to contribute to they are enthusiastically contribute, they are passionate to contribute in the research arena. So I think we are the established researchers, we should guide them, we should serve for them. It's so my always message for the young students and researchers, young fellows and colleagues, that life is a time to get knowledge. So we have to always get knowledge, we have to always engaged with the review of the literature in order to get knowledge. And there are many ways, many means through which we can have the knowledge. And say knowledge is power, we have to go and through which. So I may in the finally thanks again, Dr. Professor Haider Shah. And the especially Kalwas and all the participants for your valued time. And really, it was a wonderful session. So I have ever so delivered in my life. So it's I have really enjoyed, and it was very good for that to interact with all the participants and to answer all the
Mm.
really wonderful questions from our participants. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was indeed a pleasure to have a session with you, Dr. Habib. Thank you very much for your time, for your energy, because you people are the real contributor. As I mentioned earlier, what you people are doing is a fantastic job. You people are there to guide the people, particularly the students, the young researchers, which is a great job. And keep it up. I know your friends and you people are very great, and you people are doing a fantastic job. Once again, thank you. And really, it was a pleasure to have you. So, in the last, I would say that yes, indeed, research contribution is a very technical but a very simple thing as well, because the great speaker has already elaborated in a very simple way for you people to understand what is research gap, and how you are going to have the research contribution, and why you are going to do your research, because it has that kind of contribution. So do follow the distinguished guest speaker through his research work, and you can email him for future learning and guidance. He is very generous and always ready to help the people. Moreover, wonderful content, the wonderful explanation which the great speaker has already elaborated will help you to learn and develop your understanding regarding the research contribution. So take advantage of all information, important tips, and suggestions shared by an expert. So that is all we have time for today. Thank you once again, Dr. Habib, for your wonderful session. And I
Thank
would
you.
also
Pleasure
like
is
to,
mine. Thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. And I would also like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional question about the information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through his email or social media. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way, and please do not miss any session. Until next session, take care of